At some point, buying computer upgrades stopped feeling like a simple shopping decision and started feeling like a small panic. You open a store page. You see a kit of RAM you used to buy without thinking. And the price looks wrong, not a little higher. Not inflation higher, more like, wait, did I click the wrong product? And if you're feeling that right now, you're not imagining it. RAM prices have been climbing, and for a lot of people it feels sudden, like it happened overnight. But the truth is, the pressure has been building quietly for a while. So in this video, I'm going to explain what's going on in plain English without the tech headache. What RAM is in simple terms, why it's getting more expensive, why storage prices often move with it, and what you can actually do as a normal buyer so you don't get caught at the worst possible time. And here's the part that matters most. This isn't just about your next PC upgrade. This affects laptops, phones, graphics cards, game consoles, and basically anything that stores or moves data. So if you're thinking, okay, why should I care? Stick with me, because the reason is bigger than one product. Now, before we talk about the price problem, we need one clear foundation. RAM is not storage, and storage is not RAM. They both hold data, but they hold it in different ways. Think of your computer like a kitchen. Storage is your pantry. It's where everything lives long-term, your apps, your photos, your files. Even when the computer is off, the pantry still has everything inside. RAM is your countertop. It's the space you use right now. When you open a program, your computer pulls what it needs from the pantry and lays it out on the counter, because grabbing things from the counter is fast. If the counter is small, you keep bumping into things. You start stacking, you start clearing space, everything feels slower and messier. If the counter is bigger, you can cook comfortably, you can multitask, things feel smooth, that's RAM. So when RAM prices rise, it's not just a gamer problem. It hits students, office PCs creators, and anyone who just wants a computer that feels normal. Now here's the uncomfortable question. If RAM is so common, used in basically everything, how can it suddenly become expensive? That's where the story begins, because RAM doesn't come from RAM factories. It comes from a broader world of memory chips, and that world has been pulled in two directions at the same time. There are two big memory families to understand. One family is used for RAM, the other is used for storage. The RAM side is often called DRAM, the storage side is often called NAND. You don't need to memorize those names. Just remember this. One is the countertop memory, the other is the pantry memory, and both are made by a small number of giant manufacturers. Because when only a few companies make something the whole world needs, a shift in their priorities can hit everyone fast. Now here's the twist. The biggest driver right now isn't gamers, it isn't students. It isn't people building PCs on a budget, it's the AI gold rush. AI companies and the data centers behind them consume an unbelievable amount of memory, not just storage, not just RAM, memory everywhere. Training and running modern AI requires massive pools of data. That data has to move quickly. It has to be stored. It has to be processed. And to do that efficiently, data centers use specialized memory that's built for speed. This is where people get confused, so let's slow down. The memory used in many AI servers is not the same type you buy for your desktop. It's a different category, often designed to feed powerful chips as fast as possible. And the demand for it has exploded. So manufacturers looked at the market and saw something obvious. This is where the money is. When demand spikes and profit is higher in one area, factories shift, lines get repurposed. Production schedules change, and normal consumer parts suddenly become less of a priority. And that's one of the biggest reasons you're seeing price pressure. It's not that the world forgot how to make RAM. It's that the world is making a different kind of memory for a different kind of customer because it's more profitable. Now let's make it practical. Imagine you run a giant memory factory. You have limited machines, limited engineers, limited capacity. You can sell memory to millions of consumers in small batches with lots of competition and tight profit margins. Or you can sell huge orders to data centers with higher margins and long-term contracts and customers who will keep buying. If you're running that business, where do you focus? This is why you can have a shortage without the planet running out of chips. It's more like a traffic jam. The factory highway is clogged with high-profit orders and the consumer lane is moving slower. Now that factory shift creates a second problem. The moment supply tightens, buyers panic. PC builders start buying earlier. Companies start stocking inventory, retailers adjust pricing. And suddenly demand goes up at the exact moment supply goes down. That's the perfect storm for higher prices. And here's something worth remembering. when prices rise, it doesn't stop at RAM. Because the same memory ecosystem touches storage too. If NAND supply changes, SSDs move. If DRAM supply changes, RAM moves. And sometimes the whole memory market shifts together. So even if you're thinking, I don't need RAM, I just need an SSD, you can still feel the ripple. Now let's talk about why this feels scarier than a normal price swing. Most price spikes are simple. Demand goes up, supply catches up, price settles. But with memory, there's a longer cycle. Building new production takes time, retooling factories takes time, training workers takes time. And companies don't want to overbuild because the second demand drops, they get stuck with too much inventory. So manufacturers tend to move carefully, slowly, and that can stretch price increases longer than buyers expect. Now, while AI demand is the big headline, it's not the only pressure. There's also geopolitics. Memory manufacturing is global. Materials, equipment, and logistics cross borders. And when countries tighten rules, restrict exports, or impose controls on advanced technology, the whole supply chain gets more fragile. So when tensions rise, costs rise, delays rise, uncertainty rises. And markets hate uncertainty. That's why you'll often see prices move before a real shortage shows up, because companies price in risk. Now let's bring this back to you. What does all this mean for the average person shopping today? First, it means timing matters more than usual. If you already know you're upgrading soon, waiting just a little longer can backfire, not always. But in a rising market, the default direction is up. Second, it means specs matter. A lot of people buy RAM the way they buy shoes. Give me the popular size. But memory needs are personal. If you browse the web, study, and do office work, you might be perfectly fine with a modest amount of RAM. If you game, stream, edit video, or run lots of apps at once, you benefit from more. And here's the catch. When prices rise, jumping from enough to comfortable can get expensive fast. So your best move is to be honest about how you use your computer. And if you're stuck between two common choices, here's a simple way to think about it. If your computer is mostly for browsing, classes, office work, and streaming, a basic amount can feel totally fine. But if you keep a lot open at once, or you edit video, or you game while running voice chat in a browser in the background, more breathing room can make the whole system feel calmer. Not faster in a flashy way, just less stressed. Now, quick pause. If this kind of explanation is helping you make sense of the chaos and you want more clear breakdowns like this, subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot and it tells me to keep making videos that save you time and money. Alright, back to it. Let's talk about something people don't realize until it's too late. Price increases don't hit everyone evenly. If you're buying a full PC from a big brand, you might see the price go up, but the RAM line item is hidden. If you're building your own PC, you feel it immediately because RAM is a separate purchase. And if you're buying a laptop, you might not even have the option to upgrade later, which makes the timing even more important. Because once it's soldered in, what you buy is what you live with. Now, a quick note that saves people money. You may see RAM terms that look like generations. Newer, older, different numbers. You don't need to become an expert. But remember, your computer can only use the type it was built for. So before you buy, make sure you're shopping for the right kind, not just the best deal. Now, let's talk about the future without pretending anyone can predict it perfectly. Some people will tell you, don't worry, it'll be fine next month. Others will say this will last years. The honest answer is, it depends on how long AI demand stays intense, how quickly factories expand, and how the global supply chain behaves. But here's what we can say with confidence. The longer the pressure stays, the more products get pulled into it. Not just desktops, phones, tablets, consoles, because modern devices are hungry for memory. Now, what should you do right now as a buyer? If you're upgrading soon, don't wait for the perfect deal. In a market like this, the perfect deal often never appears. Instead, watch for good enough, a reasonable price, a reputable brand, a seller you trust. And when you find that, don't overthink it for weeks. Because the biggest regret in a rising market is watching the same item climb while you hesitate. And if you're not sure you even need to upgrade, here's a quick reality check. If your computer feels smooth while you multitask, you can probably wait. But if you're constantly closing apps to keep things stable, or your browser alone feels heavy, you're running right on the edge. Now let's address the second-hand market, because a lot of people turn to it when prices rise. And it can be smart, but it can also be risky. Buying used RAM is usually safer than buying used storage. Why? Because storage wears out, it has a lifespan, it can be abused, it can hide problems that aren't obvious at first. Used storage can also come with security risks because you don't know what's been on it before. Used RAM, on the other hand, tends to be less risky. If it works, it works. And it's harder to wear out in the same way. That doesn't mean every used deal is safe. You still need to avoid unknown brands and you need to be careful with fakes. Because when prices go up, counterfeits follow. So the goal is simple: buy from sellers with a track record and don't chase deals that look too good to be true. One more thing to keep in mind. Even if RAM prices cool down later, the new normal can stick around. Retailers adjust, manufacturers adjust. And sometimes the market doesn't return to the old baseline because demand has permanently grown. So let's wrap this up with a clear picture you can remember. RAM prices are rising because memory production is being pulled toward higher profit demand, especially data centers and AI. When factories focus on those customers, consumer supply tightens. When supply tightens, buyers rush to buy. When buyers rush to buy, demand rises, and prices climb. On top of that, global uncertainty adds friction, and friction makes everything more expensive. Now I want to hear from you. When you look at prices where you live, what has changed the most? Is it RAM kits, SSDs, laptops, graphics cards? Drop your experience in the comments. It helps everyone understand what's happening in the real world, not just on paper. And if you're planning an upgrade, my best advice is simple. Buy for your actual needs, buy from trusted sources, and don't let confusion cost you money. Stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.